Hey, you're going to be okay. I'm your host, Elizabeth May, and my functional health practice helps people heal when they've exhausted traditional options. When no one can figure your health challenges out, my team helps you resolve symptoms and restores your health. You're listening to my podcast, where we'll hear stories of healing chronic illness from a root cause approach. Hey friends, we are back at Hey, You're Gonna Be Okay. I'm Elizabeth, and today we're going to continue our conversation on mold. In part one, we talked a lot about how mold toxicity shows up and how it can quietly wreak havoc on our bodies and especially our kids. And today we're going to talk about what do we do about it. Here's really where I want to start. Mold is a triggering event when it comes to your immune system, okay? That means if we want to restore balance to the immune system, whether it's for ourselves or for our kids, we want to restore health, that we have to address the environment. So those are the two big steps, mold a triggering event, balance the immune system, address the environment. And really addressing the environment and balancing the immune system have to happen at the same time. And then balancing the immune system will persist. That work will persist once the environment is clean. Now, we oftentimes have other stuff to clean up, right? Nutrient depletions, that can be a part of what happens with mold. We can have nervous system, limbic system all out of whack. But I will tell you, we have seen in practice that when we clean the environment, we get the person in a safe, clean environment. And when we balance their immune system, oftentimes the limbic and the nervous system issues kind of take care of themselves. So when it comes to your immune system, mold is absolutely a triggering event. Why is the environment so important with mold? Well, to me, this seems kind of simple, right? The environment you are in or your child grows up in, even more so, is really, really critical, especially in the early years. You'll hear me talk a lot about mold in kids versus mold in adults, because in those early years when the immune system is still developing and learning what is friend and foe, right? So the immune system of the child in those first 6 to 8 years, its job is to basically judge everything that comes in contact with the child. That's why we want our kids to get dirty. That's why we want our kids to experience bacteria in the world, because the immune system is going to identify like, oh, this is streptococcus bacteria that just got blown in Katie's face. Katie's immune system goes, gets the streptococcus bacteria. Now we don't have strep. We have good immunity against strep. The same is true of mold. Really, of any pathogen, the immune system in those early years is learning. So if and when a child grows up in a moldy environment, you can imagine that their immune system is confused. It's kind of just like the old adage around, if you put a frog in boiling water, right, he knows. But if you just turn up the heat slowly, he has no idea. Same thing. If the child has been was in utero in a moldy environment, was born and brought home to a moldy environment, remains in a moldy environment, that immune system is never going to develop appropriate tolerance to mold and know that that isn't Katie's body, for example. It's not going to combat it over a lifetime. So if the environment isn't stable, if there's mold or other triggers in the child's life, in their environment, their immune system continually gets activated as well. So say you live in a house that has radon that's not mitigated. The immune system is regularly being activated when it comes into contact with the toxicity. Same for toxins in our water. Plenty of clients who've discovered like old cast iron pipes that are just nasty, copper pipes, those sort of things leaching into the water source. Well, that little person's immune system is constantly activated around that toxic exposure. Mold is no different. It's like an alarm system on the immune that won't stop ringing. And when that happens, other issues in the body happen. The gut stays inflamed. Detox slows down. Their immune system starts to lose a sense of what's dangerous and what's not. The same can happen in an adult. That's why mold's a triggering event, because the immune system loses its tolerance. It's like, I don't know, is strep a problem? Because we thought mold was a problem, but Elizabeth's breathing it in all the time. So me, the immune system, I'm going to just not really worry about the strep because we were exposed to that a lot. And you can start to see how the person, their health will cascade. So this is where we start seeing those imbalances between Th1 and Th2 immune responses. If you want to learn about that, go back to those first 3 episodes of the podcast in season 1, where we talk about Th1 is the killer side of the immune system. Th2 is the inflammatory or inflammation, puffiness, allergies, that side of the immune system. It's like the immune system loses its common sense. It reacts to things that it shouldn't when the body's in a moldy environment, and then it stops reacting to things that it should. So it's not just mold. Like I said, like when there's water damage, we're also dealing with bacteria, with lipopolysaccharides, with endotoxins, with the mycotoxins. So anytime there's water damage, you have a lot of things piling on top. Again, all this piles on top of other things in our environment, right? So we're exposed to so much more glyphosate or Roundup, the active chemical that's used as an herbicide and pesticide. It's used in a lot of ways, which is really fascinating, but it's an issue, right, in America. Phthalates, BPA, chlorine in our water. Even low levels of mold with mycotoxins can become a big problem when you think about these cumulative exposures. And here's what I want you to hear is the more toxicity that we can remove from a person's environment, the healthier they will be. So sometimes we feel like cleaning out our cleaning products and turning them into cleaner items, or using vinegar and baking soda instead of bleach. Whatever it may be, we feel like, God, this is so many things to do and so much work, and these are expensive. But truly, if we can take the total load off of the body, we can allow the body, we basically raise up the body's ability to work. Now, you can't always just do that for everything, right? Like we can't just like clean everything up and then still live in mold and expect to have perfect health. But all those little incremental steps that you do to clean up environment exposures, to be outside more, to have a more healthy oxygen-rich environment, those things really matter. But also, even when water damage looks dry, even when inspectors say that moisture levels are fine, mycotoxins can still be released like a gas from your walls. So say you've had water damage before, mold developed, there's not ongoing wetness, you can still have the mycotoxins being released from your walls or from wherever the water damage occurred. So if you've had a wet basement and the concrete has some staining, maybe the carpet was wet, but it got dried a couple days, there can still be mold underneath of that in the subfloor or in the carpet padding. And even though you don't see it, it can still be releasing mycotoxins. That is why mold is tricky, right? Because maybe we don't have a wetness right now, but there was wetness before. And when you get into houses, we don't know who or how our homes are taken care of before we were there. And honestly, sometimes we don't know all the parts of how our homes were taken care of when we were there. So what do we do? What do we do for the human body that has been exposed to mold? First, we're going to test, okay? Some of the tests that we use to get a clearer picture. And there's nuance to these tests. No test is perfect, okay? I would say that even a blood work, right? We have this expectation that testing will solve my problems. It can, but also we see blood work deviate, and it's one snapshot in time. So some of these tests that we use, again, are going to not be perfect. A mycotoxin test, this is typically a urine test. This tells us if you are carrying a mold toxin load. This shows us what the body is excreting toxin-wise, mycotoxin-wise. So it's not going to tell us exactly like, oh, Elizabeth is exposed to Stachybotrys in her home and Aspergillus niger. No. It is going to show us the particular types of mycotoxins, which can be really helpful. And that can actually show us a lot because we can deduce from certain mycotoxins where they came from. But this test is usually a urine test, and it's something that we'll use to track things over time. A lot of times too, you'll see somebody in mold releasing just a little bit, and then we started on a protocol and you will see them release a ton. And then, a few months from now, they'll continue releasing more and more mycotoxins. All of that depends on so many factors. Is the person still exposed? Is maybe the person exposed at work or daycare? Is the person carrying a lot of visceral fat, because the body will store mold mycotoxins in visceral fat to keep organs and circulating blood safe? So mycotoxin testing is great. It helps us really see if there's a big problem. It helps us track kind of progress, and it does track things out into the mycotoxin. So we know, there'll be like ochratoxin A, mycophenolic acid, there'll be aflatoxin in one. And you can deduce and work backwards. Gliotoxin, we know where these things come from or what group of molds they come from. And so that helps us to kind of understand and think through like, where maybe could these things be? It also is correlated to various health impacts, okay? So something like ochratoxin can create a lot of GI toxicity, can create a lot of carcinogenicity. That would be basically leading to cancer, right? We can see a lot of nephrotoxicity. It's very toxic to the kidneys. So if I have someone who comes in and is struggling with kidney and liver health, I'm always considering mold and mycotoxins now or in their history. Organic acids test, another urine test that is used more broadly. Mycotoxin really is going to be what you want to see like what mold we're being exposed to, levels. the beauty of an organic acid test, one, it's a urine test. Two, it's looking at yeast in the body. So remember, fungus loves family from last week's episode. If there is mold in the environment, we're often going to see arabinose on this test elevated, indicating candida issues. We're also going to see some metabolites of aspergillus molds and fusarium molds. And we can, again, kind of deduce like, oh, there's probably some fungal issue in this person's environment. And then we can also see if there's been colonization in the body by using the oat. So if I'm living in a moldy environment regularly, I can have colonization in my nasal cavity. I can have colonization in my gut, right? The mold just needs moisture. Where do I have moisture? All inside of me. And so that mold can come and live and essentially be poisoning me repetitively. Some of the beauty of an organic acids test is it gives us some bacterial markers. It gives us Clostridia markers, which Clostridia family bacteria will take advantage of a body that's compromised by mold and mycotoxins. And then we also see oxalate metabolites. Those are going to be affected by mold and mycotoxins. We're going to see things like mitochondrial markers. You're going to see neurotransmitter markers. Lots of really good info that just tells us about the general state and health of the body at the time of testing. We're also going to see several nutrients. So it gives us lots of tools for helping to put that body back together. It gives us info around folate metabolism, methylation, how the body is able to deal with some of that toxic exposure. And it's just really helpful test for us to check in on fungal load and then body function to kind of give us a pathway on how to get out. But really, for the purposes of mold, the organic acid test is to see what mold has colonized in your body. Is there mold literally living in the body? Is kind of its high point. Mold antibody testing can see how your immune system is responding. A lot of times I'll have people come in and say, I did allergy testing. I'm an allergist and I'm allergic to mold. Okay, a body should be reactive to mold. We should have a reaction. It's when we have really, really high antibodies to mold. That is when we have more of a concern. And if a body's been exposed to mold for a long time, you're going to see higher antibody numbers. But for me, that's not really super helpful. I also live in the Ohio Valley in the Kentucky area. And so a lot of people are going to have mold and antibody levels elevated, especially towards the end of summer, going into fall, because the fungal load in a humid climate is quite a lot. So they're not really the most helpful. A VCS test, this is a really inexpensive test you can do online. You can just Google a VCS test. I think it's vcstest.com. And it's basically a visual contrast sensitivity testing. So you're going to go through on your computer screen and look at a bunch of pictures, and you're going to have to say which one is having more contrast here or there. And it sends you through this series of pictures to help look for mold exposure effects on the eyes, neurotoxin exposure effects on the eyes, Lyme disease effects on the eyes. It's also going to help us look for CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And it's really so inexpensive, non-invasive. If someone's thinking about not testing for mold, isn't open to it, a VCS test is so inexpensive and easy, and we can just pop right through it. I think it's like $15, and I think you can buy a few at a discounted price. It has some pretty good data behind it. We love that, and it's so easy. You can have a kiddo do it who can talk. And who can more than talk. They need to be able to discern contrast, but it can be a really helpful, easy, like low-hanging fruit kind of test for us to kind of see. And sometimes for me too, if I'm hearing lots of mold and Lyme symptoms, because they mimic one another, I'll have the client do a VCS test to get me a little more information on how the eyes are being affected. So other testing and blood work. What are we going to see in traditional blood work? So you may go to your doctor for your annual checkup or just to try to get some kind of baseline. And there are things that we can see. They're not always going to be there. I've seen plenty of people with beautiful blood work who are living in so much mold, but a lot of times these are the things we're going to see deviated. Low iron and ferritin being your iron stores. We're often going to see an underactive thyroid and thyroid antibodies showing autoimmunity. Think about where your thyroid is, right? It's here in the throat. Well, we breathe in mold spores. We breathe in mycotoxins. It's a pretty sensitive organ. It can absorb. It's going to respond. It's also going to slow things down when it's affected. And then those thyroid antibodies are there. That's the immune system trying to clean out trash in that thyroid area, right? So we tend to think of traditionally antibodies as autoimmune. They're just attacking the thyroid tissue. Yeah, well, that's true.
functional immunology shows us that the immune system is not dumb. It goes and does things for a reason, on purpose, right? So there was something in that thyroid that provoked immune cells to start infiltrating that area. A lot of times mold can be that. Low zinc levels are another thing. Zinc is a really important nutrient for the immune system. If your immune system's been dealing with that mold ongoing, we're going to see low zinc levels. Elevated eosinophils. This is part of your CBC with differential, one of my most favorite, most inexpensive. I think it costs us $4 to order. You can get most any doctor to run it. And if they won't, you can ask them to note your file that they won't run it, and they will run it. But it's going to give you maybe your 5 main immune cells split, and that's going to help us to see and think about what infectious issues or exposures are you dealing with. It's definitely, you have to have someone who understands how to look at it, but it can be really helpful in expensive data. Low bilirubin or other signs of oxidative stress. Sometimes we're going to see elevated bilirubin as well. A lot of times we're going to see other liver enzymes, other liver markers, elevated, depressed, one way or the other. But those things are important to think about. Your liver is a filter. Your kidneys are a filter. We're going to also sometimes see kidney markers be off. We can see electrolyte markers be off or very imbalanced persistently. That's another flag for me that maybe there is mold. Poor vitamin and mineral absorption over time is something that I'm going to think about with mold. If someone's really, really depleted, I'm always wondering what's been here depleting and breaking down their body. And like we talked, fungus is a decomposer. So that's always something that's curious to me. And then again, if someone has evidence that other infections have taken hold, if they have cyclical colds, they have cyclical sinus infections, they can't get rid of their Epstein-Barr virus or mono, they're always having small intestine bacterial overgrowth, they're always having GI issues, nothing is getting them anywhere, that tells me that we're probably looking at mold illness. Now, how do we at Hey May help the body recover? We have really, really wonderful outcomes for our clients, mostly because we're ruthless and we've all been through sickness and we wanted to be done with it. And so understanding functional immunology and how the immune system keeps the body safe, keeps the body well is the key. Now, when we look at cleaning the environment, when we look at cleaning the body, those things are important, but the immune piece is really, really important. So this is what we do. We start by addressing the environment. Because if mold is still in the home, the body cannot heal. Lots of things we can do. We're going to talk testing and what to do when you suspect mold in your home on the next episode. And then we're going to get to talk with a mold inspector, which is exciting. So we're going to address the environment. We'll unfold that a little more next time. Then we're going to support detoxification and drainage pathways so the body can start clearing out the toxins. A lot of time toxins will clog those systems, basically. They overwhelm the body. The body has to use things like hydration to do other functions to deal with the incoming toxic exposure and not so much pushing things out. So we really work on drainage and detox. We want to make sure that a body is draining well. Toxins have to be leaving before I can push anything out of your body. That's so important. That's why people get sick, really, really sick when they start any kind of protocol. They crash. It's because there's not adequate detox and drainage pathway work been done. Really important. Another key part of our process is we're going to balance and modulate the immune system. We're going to calm down those overreactions at the Th2 side that's really inflammatory and food reactions and allergies. We're going to calm that side down while we're going to support the body's ability, that killer side, to go and purge and clean house, get the mycotoxins out, get the molds out. We're going to help balance the immune system, help restore the immune system's tolerance of mold. We're going to make sure that it knows what is mold, what is the body, and it stops attacking those tissues instead of attacking the actual problem. We're going to replenish what's been depleted. When you have lived in or experienced mold, you are absolutely going to be depleted in vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, manage inflammation. Nobody's more inflamed than a mold client. We're also going to support the integrity of cell membranes, okay? That's a whole nother talk for another day, but it's a really, really key piece in restoring the body from the ground up, from all of those cells that have been harmed by the mold and mycotoxins. Another key part in why people don't often get better after mold is we are going to address the chronic infections that have taken hold while the immune system has been suppressed. More often than not, we see a ton of streptococcus because that's present in our normal microbiome. It's in our ear, nose, and throat. For many of us, it's in our gut. And when the body is suppressed, we're going to have an overgrowth there. We often see C. difficile or Clostridia family infections. We often see a lot of small intestine bacterial overgrowth. If I take you out of mold and I'm not addressing your gut issues, if I'm not addressing your circulation issues, your numbness, your neurological problems, I'm not getting you better. So we are ruthless about addressing those other infections, repleting what's been depleted, making sure that we're restoring function. And of course, the last and most important piece is we're working on healing and sealing the gut and other barrier systems in the body. We think of the gut as like our only barrier because we understand it as a leaky gut, right? Your brain can be leaky. Your lungs can be leaky. Your skin can be leaky. So we want to make sure all those barrier systems are strong. If in their season of living in mold, they were not able to police that mold, they're going to be weak. We're going to need to heal and seal the gut, make sure that the blood-brain barrier is intact and in fact protecting the brain from toxin load, lungs, all those things. We want to make sure they can do their job of keeping the bad stuff out and the good stuff in. Listen, if this is sounding overwhelming, please hear me when I say you don't have to do all this at one time, and you absolutely don't have to do it alone. Healing after mold exposure is absolutely possible. I've done it twice, and it's something we walk through with our clients gently, system by system, at your pace. We totally equip you in finding help to remediate, and knowing what appropriate remediation is, and looking for people who can do a really great inspection and understanding testing. If you want to learn more about how we help families recover from mold illness, or if you're looking for support, you can always find us at heyheymay.com. You can always find me on Instagram too at heyheyelizabethmay. Tons of information there. We've got some really great mold articles on the blog to help get you started in testing in your home. And of course, next week, we're going to talk about cleaning the environment. Then we're going to move into inspection. So thanks for listening today. I hope this gives you a little more clarity and mostly a lot more hope, because healing from mold is possible. And hey, you're going to be okay.
Thanks for listening. I hope you're leaving encouraged, curious, and hopeful. If you learned something, I'd love for you to share this episode with a friend. Hey, we're all healing together. You can learn more about my practice, our team, and what it's like to work with us at heyheymay.com. I teach lots on Instagram and answer questions each Monday. My Instagram handle is at heyheyelizabethmay. And my cookbook, Hey Hey Every Day, is available on heyheymay.com and Amazon. Happy healing!